Facebook. So we are live on pretty much everywhere, all over the place. We still have a few more people coming in. Go ahead and admit those folks coming in. Thanks everyone for joining us. This session is being recorded live. It is live on WaveTalkers.com, live on the WaveTalkers YouTube channel, live on the WaveTalkers Facebook page, and it is live on my own page on LinkedIn. If you follow me at Chris Mattia on LinkedIn, then you can watch us there on LinkedIn as well. We have a bunch of people here live with us in the Zoom session for those people who signed up and registered to be able to be a part of this. We've got even more coming in right now into the live session. And with that, I will turn it over to my esteemed colleague, David, KK6DA.
Chris, thank you. Welcome to class number 2. We're going to take a break next week, and then we'll come back in December for 2 more classes. You know that schedule. But this class number 2 is going to be about getting you on the air. That's an important part of Winlink, of course. That's probably why many of you are here, but do not underestimate the ability to use Winlink just on the internet. If the internet is up, and the fire captain puts you in charge of communications, you can use this powerful program. We have with us today also Steve Waterman, K4CJX, who is one of the original developers. Hi, Steve. Wave at everybody if you would. One of the original developers of Winlink back in pre-Windows days. And Steve, before I introduce everybody else, give us 30 seconds of wisdom on using Winlink in 2021.
Thank you. And it's really great to see this training take place in so much media. Hopefully it'll get around. I have not heard it yet, but I've heard it is excellent. Really appreciate the opportunity to learn now and not when we're under stress and really need it. This is the time to do that, and apparently you guys are the guys to do it. Thank you.
Steve, thank you. Thanks for everything you do and the Winlink development team. You guys are absolutely amazing. Every time there's an update, everyone, Steve probably has a hand in approving that update. So here are your Southern California teachers. Chris Mattia, W6AH, who is producing this fabulous production, and you'll see some of his graphics work in a moment. Dave Goldenberg, W0DHG, is going to show you what a SignaLink USB Sound Card is like. And Dan Tomlinson, NR6V, is going to talk about TNCs of all types, et cetera, et cetera. And a little bit later on, we'll give you a live demo of what a simple packet RF communication looks like on Winlink. So Chris, with that, back to you. Let's dig into class 2.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and pull a few of these spotlights down. So my spotlight is just set up for me, so everybody will be able to see the screen. Just a reminder, I do present through my camera like this while the slides over here behind me. So if you're inside of the Zoom, make sure you click on the view menu in the upper right, and then click on the speaker view so you can see everything that's going in. So today, what we are going to attempt to focus on is one single question, and that is it plugged in? Last week, when we got started with all of this, we started off, we saw this graphic, and we were talking about the Winlink application, which is actually called RMS Express still when you go ahead and install it. And last week we showed you that telnet, or the internet path, if you have access to the internet, and how your messages can go through an RMS gateway, how there's RF paths and so forth. But what we're going to focus on today is just this one single link, and it's the link between your radio, your computer, and the Winlink or RMS Express application. And with that, we're going to be looking at both the physical and the virtual interfaces between your radio all the way back through the signal chain back to the RMS Express application and vice versa. So with that, let's talk about the link itself between your computer and your radio. Now, really what we're talking about are two separate pathways here, the receive pathway and the transmit pathway. Now, on the receive pathway side, what we're doing is we're connecting essentially your radio's speaker to your computer's microphone so that your computer can hear the signals that are coming in through your radio. On the transmit side, we're essentially connecting your computer speaker to the radio's microphone port. So data that's coming out of Winlink goes all the way out to your radio and then is sent out over the air. When your radio is connected to your computer in this way, you're essentially connecting to your computer's sound card. Now, if you use the built-in sound card in your computer, then your radio is attached to both the input and the output of the audio for your computer, which means you can't use those for other things at that point. So it's a good idea to look at some other pathways rather than just trying to use the built-in sound card. And there's also optimization issues that you have if you're just using the built-in sound card. So we're going to look at some of these other ways of doing that. One of the things that you do miss if you're just using that sound card is a control channel, a way to be able to control things like the push to talk inside of your radio so that your radio knows when to transmit. Now, if you one option for you is, of course, to turn on the Vox function or the voice operated function inside. Did my audio just drop off, or are you still hearing me?
You're still good.
Oh, I'm still good. Okay, I just heard the audio change inside my headset there. The Vox function inside of your radio. So anytime your computer says, okay, here's some data, your radio will hear that data coming down the transmit line. It'll open up its transmitter and it'll go ahead and send that out. That's certainly one way to do that. And it's the way a lot of different radios work still. Some more modern radios, the latest ones that are coming out, actually have USB connections right on the radio itself. Now, if your radio has a USB connection, you may be able to simply connect a USB cable between your computer and your radio, and you get your transmit, your receive, and you get the control functionality. However, you saw our little demo that we did last week where we ran a mock net, where we had net control calling for traffic and then sending their digital traffic out. Now, some radios that have USB ports on them, you have to change some other settings inside of the radio. And so it ends up not being an optimal way to be able to operate all the time. But again, this varies from radio to radio. Now, not all radios these days have a USB port on the radio that can be used in this way. A lot of radios have some kind of a data port. Now, this is usually some kind of a serial connection that combines multiple of these ports all together into one jack on the back of your radio. And thus you need some kind of an interface that's sitting in between that digital or that data port and the USB port on your computer. And one way to handle this is with an external USB sound card. And that's one of the ways that we're going to look at today. That's the primary way that we've found operates the most effective with an EmComm situation. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the external USB sound card. And the one that we tend to use the most here is the SignaLink, and this is by Tigertronics. And the SignaLink, there's several others that are out there, but we found the SignaLink to be the most reliable for the type of emergency communications work that we do in both Los Angeles and in Ventura counties with a wide range of radios. So what's different about having this external SignaLink? Well, first of all, there are some dials that are out on the front. Now, these are a lot easier to be able to get to and set. These would be your transmit volume, your receive volume, and a delay. They're actual dials that are right on the front of the unit that you're able to see and access without having to go into another another set of software, find some slider and drag the slider around it to get it set. It's much easier on the fly to be able to make a couple of changes as you need. If you take the unit and you flip it around to the back, there are a variety of ports on the back of a SignaLink, but the one that's there's only two that are really of most interest to us right now. And the first is this radio port. Now, on the back side of the SignaLink, this looks like your standard Ethernet jack that you would use for a network connection. However, what you connect to that jack is not an Ethernet cable, but it's a custom cable that you either purchase or you build yourself that'll connect from a SignaLink to your specific radio, whatever that data port happens to be on the back of your radio, or whatever types of connections that you need to make to your specific radio. You need one of those specific cables. That allows the hardware of the SignaLink to be independent of the radio that you're going to use it for. The other port that's of interest on the back is the standard USB port. And this is a standard USB type A port. It's not a super high speed one, so you don't have to worry about, do I have USB-C or USB 3 or whichever different standard. It's one of the older standards that supports the speed of the data transmission just fine. And it carries all your transmit data, all your receive data, as well as some communications data, because the SignaLink is able to key up your radio when data is coming down. And that is a really big deal. It makes the entire process of sending and receiving Winlink email a whole lot more efficient. In a few minutes, Dave, W0DHG, is going to give you a sneak peek inside of a SignaLink. He's going to open it up, show you what the inside looks like, and you'll find inside there is a special chip that's set up for jumpers in there. And what you do is you set these jumpers for your specific radio. That way, one piece of hardware will work on any other set of data. If you've gone onto the WaveTalkers site, we just uploaded a new video created by KK6DA that also walks through this. But you're going to get a live demo of how to set up these jumpers and what they look like in just a few minutes. Okay, so that's the external hardwired connections. You go from your radio through some type of USB sound card device. We're focusing in on the SignaLink. There are others out there, but that's the one we're going to focus on. Now let's talk about what happens with that signal once it gets inside of your computer. And the first thing is it's connected to your USB port. So that comes with some really interesting properties. First of all, the USB port, the SignaLink device is automatically recognized by your Windows computer, and it automatically grabs the drivers for that SignaLink device. So you don't have to do any special driver install or anything like that. It just sees it, it recognizes it, and it shows up inside of your sound control panel as a USB audio codec. I'll show you in a little while how you can change the name of that USB audio codec to make it a little easier to identify. But we'll talk about that later on. The next connection inside of your PC is going to be from your virtual TNC or terminal node controller, and we like the one by UZ7HO. It's called SoundModem. We're going to do a demo of that in just a little while, and Dan NR6V is going to talk to you in just a few minutes about what a TNC actually is. But your virtual TNC is going to talk to your Windows sound control panel. It's going to talk to that USB audio codec and out the signal chain out. So that leaves the final link, of course, which would be Winlink. So you'll need to configure Winlink so that Winlink is talking to your virtual TNC sound modem, which then connects through your sound control panel all the way down to your SignaLink and your physical connections out to your radio. And that's how the full signal path is getting from Winlink all the way out over the air. And so the first question that every tech support person ever asks is it plugged in? Now you know all of the points along the signal path that you may need to check and see if a connection is plugged in. And we're going to look at how to identify some of those as we go along. With that, what I'd like to do next is I'd like to turn this over to Dan, NR6V. I'm going to bring him up to stage. If he could join me up here. There he is. And Dan, can you talk to us a little bit about what a TNC is?
I sure can. Let me get my slides up here. Okay. I thought I had this all ready to go and be nice and slick, but no. Okay. I assume you can't see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it, Dan. You're all set.
You can see the interface.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Okay, so as Chris said, you've got your computer and you've got your radio, but you've got to have a way of connecting the two. And the old way, which still works, is called a device called a terminal node controller. It's a piece of hardware that serves basically three functions. First of all, it's got to convert your data to binary, zeros and ones, and package them into little packets that are sent over the air. It adds control data to those to the data that you have that tells what the beginning and end of each packet is. And then it adds what's called a checksum, which allows the receiving radio to confirm that it received the data properly. And if it didn't, it asks for a resend of that data. Of course, the process is reversed on the receive side of the radio. It unconverts everything and puts it into a form that Winlink can understand. This is second function is that it converts those packets that we've created into a series of high and low tones. Very simple. If the tones change, that becomes one character. If the two tones are the same, it becomes a different character. Very simple. And then also the terminal node controller has a chipset that carries the AX25 rules. And those are the rules that determine how data is processed. And it may also have extra features like email servers and things like that that don't really apply to us. But that makes terminal node controllers fairly expensive. The most recent versions use what's called the KISS protocol. Yes, keep it simple, stupid. And that has led to some less expensive TNCs that work just fine for Winlink, but there still are a lot of limitations. It just really made it less expensive. The AX25 protocol is somewhat limiting. It was last updated in 1998. And because of that, it has not taken advantage of a lot of technology that's happened in the interim. Mostly, it's relatively slow. TNCs can be very expensive, although, like I say, some of the KISS protocol ones now are $150 or less. The alternative, and this became possible as we got computers that were faster and faster, the alternative is to let the computer do most of the heavy lifting. There are various software programs out there. We talked about SoundModem for packet, and then we'll talk later on about VARA for FM and HF, which is one of those newer technologies that a TNC can't handle, that are VARA FM, for example, is 10 times faster than regular packet. So the software handles most of that heavy lifting. It converts the data to binary digits. It creates the packets with the starting and end point and the data, and it handles all the protocol rules. So all that's left after the software does its job is to create the tones, and that's where the sound card comes into play. It does that very well, and we use an external sound card so not to overload the internal sound card in your computer, and also to give us more control over how it works. So the sound card converts those packets to the sounds, again, different tones. In the case of packet, high and low tones. In the case of VAR, a much more complex series of tones. And it provides the interface between the computer and the radio. The big advantage of doing this with software is that it's not limited by the AX25 protocol anymore. So faster formats like VARA can be used. The other big advantage is it's much less expensive. As a matter of fact, most of this software is either free or very low cost, much less expensive than a TNC, with a lot of advantages. So what we recommend, as Chris said, is the SignaLink USB. There are a few reasons why we do that. First of all, it supports virtually every radio out there. It's basically plug and play. There are 16 custom cables available, including one with only one end on it, and it allows you to create a custom cable if you have an unusual radio that they don't support. But they support the vast majority of the popular radios out there. Also, they have 19 jumper modules available. These are those jumpers that Chris talked about and Dave will demonstrate, that customize the SignaLink for your radio and cable. And they've taken some of the legwork out of it by creating a custom module that just plugs in. Now, we generally don't recommend these modules for a few reasons, and I think David will tell you about that, but they are available for those that might be afraid of doing jumper wires manually. And then lastly, the reason we like the SignaLink is because it has front panel level adjustments. As Chris said, you can go into your computer and adjust your sound levels, which is not hard to do, but it does require several steps to get there. These are right there on the front panel, so you can adjust them on the fly should you find that your signal to noise ratio, for example, is poor. So SignaLink USB, there are some other options out there, which we may talk about as we go, but for flexibility, we really like the SignaLink. And that's what I have. Let's see, back to David A, I guess. Or are we going to go right to Dave?
I think we're going to go right to Dave, if that's okay, to W0DHG.
All right. Well, then I will take it on. And Chris, if you could spotlight my desk. We're going to get right into the SignaLink, where we'll talk a little bit about the hardware, what you need to do, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do a little later on to help you figure out what that is specifically. Let me see if I can pin this or spotlight it for everyone.
You should be spotlit for everyone already.
Okay, super. So SignaLink USB, see two different models here. And the reason I'm showing you two of them is because, well, partly they multiply like rabbits. I have 5 or 6 or 7 of them at the house here. There are two different types that you can get if you've had this for a while. One of them, the older one, has these red transformers, and they still work, but they'll only do 1200 for the most part, not 9600. I also want to show you here the jumper block, and we talked about this. You have two options for wiring these units up. One of the options is you can just get the SignaLink itself and go ahead and put the wires in. You'll get a handy dandy instruction sheet if you buy the proper kit for your specific radio, and it'll show you exactly where to wire those jumpers. And as you can see on this one, I've done that this way. Now, if you're not feeling so handy and those are a little small and the wires are kind of going to worry you, you can add to your purchase for about $9 one of these little jumper blocks. And it's basically all pre-wired out with pins, and you just take it and insert it into your SignaLink to make those connections. Now, as Chris talked about before, you've got the front panel and the back panel. And USB, obviously, this is going to go to your computer. They actually include in the box a USB cable and the radio cable. And again, will help you figure out which custom or which specific cable that you need to purchase for your, hold on a second, see if I can get it to focus. You can purchase for your specific radio, or you can make up your own. I've made up several of my own. There's a couple of other plugs here. These are 1/8 inch phono. They're all mono, and you can add a speaker, an auxiliary, or a monitor. Now, for most of the radios out there that have a data port on the back, you don't need any of these 3/8 inch phono jacks. But for some of the radios, you can see in the background here, if I tilt up a little bit, I've got two of the radios that I use with my SignaLinks. This is a FT100D. This has got the data port in the back. All I need is the one cable that I purchased. It has a PS2 type connector on it, mini DIN, 6 pins. Many radios out there that have the data port, the Yaesus, the Kenwoods, a couple of the EmComms, will all use the same configuration. The cable's the same. If you buy the jumper block's the same. If you wire it manually, the wiring's the same. The other end of this cable is your venerable RJ45 connection, and that would plug into the back. And again, they include the USB cable. That's all I need for this specific radio. Now, for this other radio that you can see here, this is an older, it's a Yaesu FT90. I have this in this little portable kit. I can carry this anywhere and plug it in, 12 volts and Winlink FM to a local gateway. This is a little bit different. This one you plug in through the microphone jack. Because you plug it in through the microphone jack, you also have to connect the speaker wire to the back of your radio out of the speaker port, because the microphone on this specific radio doesn't have a speaker in it, so you're not able to talk both ways. As Chris talked about earlier in the presentation, you're basically plugging into both the microphone and the speaker of the radio itself. So they take care of that by providing you with an 1/8 inch phono cable, and every SignaLink you buy will include that specific cable. So you don't need to go out and buy anything additional. This is basically all you need, and this is really what we recommend and support for a first-time Winlink user that wants to get connected for RF. It is kind of the easiest, simple way to do it. I know there are 5 or 6 other audio interfaces that you could use. Rig Blaster makes one. I've purchased this recently, this DigiRig, and I'm playing around with it. And there are a number of other connections you can do, as well as some radios that have built-in TNCs, some of the Kenwoods, some of the EmComms that you don't even need an interface. But what we'll tell you is those radios, it's difficult. You need to make a bunch of menu changes and selections. And when you do that for some of these, you lose the ability to go ahead and grab your microphone and push to talk and talk at the same time without going into some of the menu interface items and make changes. So if you connect it this way and you're going through your data port in the back, you don't need to make any changes. You can talk, and then you can transmit through the SignaLink, and then you can talk without doing anything. Radios that have this microphone jack selection, obviously you'd have to pull out your microphone, plug it in, and then talk, and then change it over. This radio that I have that has just the microphone connection, it's entirely dedicated to Winlink. My gateway is set up the same way. I'm using an FT 2900. It plugs in through the microphone port, and I don't ever plan to or ever use that radio for anything other than supporting the Winlink traffic. we're going to help you by sending out with this week's wrap-up information later today or maybe tomorrow, a survey form that you can tell us what kind of radio that you might have that you want to connect. And we're going to help by pointing you to information about which specific SignaLink SKU part number that you need to get, because they do offer a bunch of different part numbers, and it's all based on the specific cable that it's going to go in the box. If you order what they call the kit, it's going to come with the SignaLink. It's going to come with this little teeny bag of jumpers that you can put in on your own. It's going to come with the diagram for your specific radio, and it's going to come with the set of wires or the set of cables that you need, USB, the data cable, and if you need the 1/8-inch phono that will go into the back of your radio and connect to the SignaLink itself. So you're up and running and ready to go. And I think with that, I'm supposed to hand it over to
If we have a question in the chat that's
sorry.
come in. Kilo Juliet 7 Papa Papa X-ray Milt in Idaho has asked, were I to buy a used SignaLink,
It's a great
how would I
question.
distinguish between the older 1200 baud and the newer 9600 baud?
That's a really great question. And as you're walking through the next Hamfest, you get to go in person and you see a SignaLink sitting on the counter there. It's really difficult to be able to tell when it's all boxed up and closed, which one it is. The only way that you can tell is to open it up. And if you open it up and you see it has these red transformers on it, this is the older model. It's I think it's been 4 years since they discontinued these and longer. Now, again, there is nothing wrong with this SignaLink at all. This works great for 1200 packet or VARA FM, not a problem at all. It'll totally work. The newer ones, when you open them up and look at those transformers in that same spot, they've got these two little black transformers. So again, I'll hold them up side by side and you can see the red old ones that you're used to seeing, the wound ones, versus the those black units. Now, again, either will work for 1200. I've seen some information out there where you can actually get these to work on 9600. I'll just tell you honestly, some of the work that we've been doing, and we've been working on Winlink for kind of all of COVID and going back a little bit more. The Aries group in the Northwest here of LA County, they're really the pioneers on it, and I'm lucky to be able to work with them on a regular basis. They've done a lot of testing. And a lot of the testing that they've done shows that, yes, 9600 is a little bit faster, but on the other hand, 1200 baud, you get a larger footprint, you get more distance, and you get a much more reliable connection every time. So we'd mostly tell you, get any SignaLink you can, and just plan to, for now, start off with 1200. 1200 baud is perfectly fine for the stuff that, as we talked about last week, you're only sending small text-based or very small decreased size pictures. You don't need a lot of data for this, and so either one would work for you and be sufficient. I hope that helps.
He says, thank you. That does help. I had a couple of other questions. Just looking at your SignaLinks there, I noted you just talked about those red transformers that are there. Is that why you colored the word USB in red on the front of your SignaLink?
Yeah. So at my house, again, as I said, I have a lot of SignaLinks. The ones that are red, I do color them just so I know. Some of the black ones, this is actually kind of a new one that I got, and I haven't done this one yet. Usually the black ones, I color the black ones black, so I know which one is which. I'm kind of a Yaesu guy, so all of mine are set up for the Yaesu jumpers, so I can pretty much plug anyone in. Again, I've got this FT 100D. Any of the Yaesu mobile radios that have the data port in the back, they'll use the same exact same cable, exact same jumper, exact same configuration. In fact, if you have a Kenwood that has a data port in the back, exact same cable, exact same jumpers. I just label them that way so I know I can expect it's going to be set up for this or it's going to be set up for that. In addition to that, a lot of times I'm also going to go in there and put some information on a little label here so that I know this one is, it's my call sign. I know this one's set up to go RJ12 through the microphone jack. It's got the red transformers. I'm only going to be able to do 1200 baud. Now, the reality is this radio, the FT90, it'll support 9600. But I know, again, reliably, I'm just going to roll it back to 1200. I don't even set the radio for 9600. Some of the newer Yaesu radios that I have black transformer dedicated SignaLink set up for. I do set the radios for 9600. And there are a couple of the gateways in my area that are set up for that, and I can successfully connect. I don't see a huge improvement in the speed of the data transferred, but depending on where I am, I might have to try more than once, and sometimes I'll just roll back to 1200 because if I have a message and needs to get through, I want to get it through quickly and efficiently.
Thanks. I noticed that you've got yours taken apart, and with the SignaLink, you get one of the Allen key wrenches with that, correct?
Yes, you do. You get a handy dandy Allen wrench, and usually what I do, I have a little bag. It comes with the set, and I keep the Allen wrench. I keep extra jumpers. I keep the jumper configuration page, and I have a couple of these little boxes that come with the pre-made jumpers. I keep those all with the radio as I travel around. So just in case something happens to my radio, but we need to get a Winlink message through and I have access to somebody else's radio, I could pull it apart. I could re-jumper it in the field, connect it back up and be up and running.
I saw a post online somewhere. I don't recall who did it, but I've made the mod to mine. I take the Allen key and I tape it to the bottom of the box, to the bottom of the SignaLink itself, so you can access it from the outside. And then made a little pouch out of tape on the inside top of the box to be able to slide the paper and the extra jumpers inside of the box. So everything is all self-contained with the SignaLink itself. So as Dave just mentioned, if we do need to go and make a change in the field, we could do so. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, is everything going to be archived on WaveTalkers.com?
Everything is archived on WaveTalkers.com. This is live, both being presented live on WaveTalkers, as well as the recordings are available there. If you go to the resources page on WaveTalkers, there's a digital section and there's a page for Winlink specifically. And that's where all of these are located. Actually, let me go ahead and I'll just go ahead and go to that page real quick. Let me do that. Let's see. Do I have the right keyboard selected? I do. We'll go to wavetalkers.com. So if I scroll down, we'll see that we are live streaming. It's me in the background just a little bit. But right up here at the top, if you go to resources, and on the resources page, we're still building these out, but here's the Winlink page. And there's class 1. We'll be adding class 2 directly to here afterwards. And for those of you who haven't found it, if you wanted to come in and say you wanted to learn about the SignaLink that we just showed you, you can click on here and it'll bring up some shorter videos that have been recorded by David KK6DA. And each of these, you just click it and it just toggles that link right there and it brings it up. And that brings us actually to SoundModem. So let me go back over to here. Thank you, Dave. One of the things that Dan, NR6V, was talking about was terminal node controllers. I'll move myself down here out of the way. And the terminal node controller that we've adopted with using Winlink and the SignaLink specifically, but this works with a lot of them, is a virtual TNC called SoundModem, and it's built by a ham UZ7HO. And so if you go to the website, it's uz7.ho.ua. And then there's a link for packet radio right in this menu bar, and it'll take you right over to here. This is where you can get a copy of your, you know what, let me make sure I'm pinned to the screen so that I can just make sure that everybody is seeing me. Spotlight for everybody. Yes, and we will.
Yeah, you're spotlighted.
There you go. Okay, good, thanks. Here's UZ7HO's page for SoundModem. And if you scroll down in the page, you'll see there's a whole bunch of links down here. And the one that you're looking for is SoundModem. The current version is 113.zip. Just go ahead and download that zip file. It'll initially go into your downloads folder, then go into your C drive, make a new folder right at the root of your C drive, copy that zip file in, and expand it out, and that will basically do the installation for you. I've got a link here on my desktop for SoundModem, and I'll go ahead and open that up so you can see what it looks like. And right now, I have my radio off. I've got a Kenwood D710G. I'm going to turn that on in just a second. But I wanted to step through what some of the settings are here inside of SoundModem so that you can see what they look like. So up here at the top, you can see it's using the AFSK AX.25, which is the default. You don't need to change anything for that to be set up. If you're familiar with the old modem transfer formats, that was X.25, and the A in the front is just for amateur. And so this is what's changing the data that's coming from Winlink or from other applications, and it's converting it into sound that can be transmitted over the air, and then vice versa on the way back in. And you'll see it transcoding some of that data here in just a second. So what you'll want to do after you get SoundModem installed is you'll want to come up here to the settings, and you're going to want to come down to devices. And inside of devices, this is where your device settings are. And mine's all set up. So if you want to screenshot this or go in and copy these down, you'll want to make sure that you set your output device and your input device. This is after you've already taken your SignaLink and you've plugged it in via USB, you've powered it on. Windows should automatically see the device, it should register it and do its driver install thing, and it'll show up and it'll call itself USB audio codec. That's what it shows up by default. Now, personally, I don't like that because I have several devices that are called USB audio codec, and I get confused sometimes. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes how to change that name so that it cleans things up just a little bit.
Hey Chris,
Yeah.
Can we pause for a second?
Absolutely.
There were two things. One is, don't worry about getting a screenshot of this because we're going to send you a PDF that has all the settings. But KJ7PPX asked a question about, well, SoundModem, is this going to be used in place of the TNC or the SignaLink? And so maybe take a moment and stop and talk about the SoundModem being the USB, the interface, the audio interface between the PC and the radio, whereas the software is really truly the TNC.
Yeah, exactly. So let me see if I can get back to my diagram that I had up just a few minutes ago, because that may.
Then the answer is you really kind of need both, and there's some other options besides this SoundModem software that we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but this one's free. It works really well, and it's a great diagnostic tool.
So when I was talking a little while ago, and I had this diagram up, some radios, I have a Kenwood D710G, and that has a built-in TNC in it. And so I used to have just a regular, just a custom cable from that. It went from the Kenwood straight to the computer. It connected via USB, and I would configure Winlink to talk directly to the radio. I just used the built-in TNC inside of the radio. That worked for me for 2, maybe 3 years just fine. The radio would handle all of the traffic without issue. Where I finally changed over and went to the SignaLink was when I started using VARA. which we're going to introduce in an upcoming class. And I found out that I needed to have that sound modem to do, I needed to have a sound card to do the translation for VARA specifically. So if you do have a radio that has a built-in TNC, yes, you can get that connection and go straight from the radio straight into the straight from the computer into the TNC. However, what SoundModem is playing the role of here is it's playing the role of the TNC. And it's a virtual TNC. It's running as software inside of the computer. You don't have to have a separate hardware box. Dan was talking about some of the older hardware boxes that you used to have that would be an actual TNC. So SoundModem is acting as your terminal node controller. The SignaLink is just acting as a USB sound card. That's all it's acting as. But it's been optimized for amateur radio. So that gets us a couple of things. First of all, as Dave W0DHG was saying, he's got several radios, all of which have SignaLinks attached to them. So he can technically connect multiple of the SignaLinks into one computer, have them all identified within software, and send different types of traffic to different types of radio, each going through their own SignaLink as it's going out. So that's where that role is. The SignaLink is the sound card. SoundModem is your virtual TNC. And we're using this virtual TNC because it's acting as like a universal translator for us. So we can talk to different amounts of software inside. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. So I hope that helps clear things up there for you. Let me jump back over to the PC here and grab the right mouse. So you've got your output and your input device. This is going from your virtual TNC and it's talking to your SignaLink. And again, your SignaLink initially shows up and it calls itself USB audio codec. There are all of these settings. As Dave mentioned, we are going to send out a PDF. We'll post it up on WaveTalkers so that you've got access to it. One thing to note down here are the ports that you've got, the server ports that are here. The AGWPE server port is 8000 and the KISS server port is 8100. And you want to make sure that you enable that 8100 port because you'll need to make sure that that's the right port inside of Winlink. So Winlink, you're basically using internal networking to route your traffic around inside that whole is it connected thing. So we're going to look at that in just a second. So there's your settings there. I'm going to hit OK. The other page of settings, if we come back up here to settings in SoundModem, is to go down to the modems setting. And inside of the modem settings, the only one that you're really concerned with is this left-hand side. And again, we'll have a detailed PDF that walks through what all of these settings are. But if you're itching to get started with that, you can go ahead and screenshot this and just replicate these settings. And that would get you up and running with a SignaLink straight out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you don't see anything happening right now. But what I'm going to do, one of the things that we wanted to make sure we talked about today is how do you know that something is connected? And a great way to do that is to plug your radio in, turn your radio on, and then tune your radio. Oops, come on, radio. There we go. Beep, beep. Perfect. Tune your radio to the national APRS frequency of 144.390. If somebody could put a note in the chat for that, 144.390. And all I did was turn my radio on. The SignaLink is actually set up. SoundModem is set up. And you can see already up here at the top, no hands, this is data that's being picked up as APRS data. So I can see that data. It's coming in. It's flowing directly into my SoundModem. Now, how is this helpful? How is this, first of all, now we can see, hey, we've got our signal path going. We've got our data coming in through here. A great way to be able to kind of visualize what does this APRS data look like. I'll take a little tiny sidebar. We're going to put a video up on WaveTalkers that talks about how to set this up. But here's pinpoint APRS. This is a an APRS mapping application. And yay, congratulations, my version of Pinpoint is current. This is where I'm located in Southern California. And if I come up here to the tools and I say connect my TNC, Pinpoint is talking to SoundModem as my TNC. So I'll go ahead and plug that pin in. And we can still see SoundModem is receiving data. Hopefully it'll just continue to receive data. I'll leave this set up here for just a minute. And if the demo gods are with me, we should start seeing some APRS pins that should start showing up here. There's one right here, out here in Bakersfield. And notice they just live map that data automatically inside of here. So that's a great way to know that your TNC is set up and it is working, because you can just see that data already coming in here on that. Now, that is, I'll go ahead and leave this running for a while so we can see some other data that's starting to come in. There's somebody else coming in here that's N6DGM. And you can even, with this tool, it's really nice because you can go ahead and map your position and you can check to see that you're actually able to transmit out as well. But this is a class not about APRS. This is a class about Winlink. And so with that, I would like to turn this over to David, KK6DA, to do a little demo of actually transmitting with Winlink using radio and SoundModem and this entire workflow. So let me bring David up here to stage. Let me add him to the spotlight.
Hey, while you're doing that, Chris, let me just point out that the important part about doing this on the APRS frequency and showing your SoundModem is knowing that the TNC is properly listening to and interpreting those packets, because you wouldn't see those packets show up if it didn't properly listen. Over to you, David.
Chris, thank you. David, thank you. So you're seeing my screen now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. Well, we left you off with this screen and Winlink Express last week using Telnet. So now we want to demonstrate what it looks like over the air. Let me move everybody over there. And so instead of, I've got to bring up SoundModem also. There's SoundModem. I'm just going to minimize it. I know it's there. But instead of Telnet Winlink, we're going to direct it to Packet Winlink. I'm going to be using an FT991A. It is at 50 watts, but I really only need 5 to hit the gateway 6 miles away that I'm going to hit. W0DHG NR6V W6AH. Please send pizza now. Getting hungry at this QTH. Okay, enough frivolity. So to my right, I have a SignaLink that's hooked up to this computer. I'm going to post this to the outbox. We have a little monitoring radio nearby. So let's open a session. It tells me everything is talking to each other. This is the name of the gateway I'm going to hit. Let's see if it works. And my call for pizza has been delivered. You saw the little green line that went from left to right. That's the message actually passing. If I were receiving a message via RF, it moves.
And I have your message.
I have it here as well.
And you want to send me a quick reply and I'll show how the reply looks?
Yeah,
Remember,
hold one.
Okay. Remember also that every message is given a unique identifier. My pizza message is this 9YX designation. It gives us some other information about speed and time, but that's a basic packet transmission right there. Let's see if there's a reply.
Can you bring up your sound modem so we can see that coming in also?
Where is it? So you can see the information actually being transmitted as packet information. Did it complete there, or there we go. There we go.
You might resync one more time.
Yeah.
And let's see what we've got. Yeah, I think we'll do it again.
Questions coming in the chat. Judy is asking, why did you use Packet Winlink out of that whole list of all of those different options?
Because we're demonstrating Packet today. In another, a little more advanced session, we'll show you VARA, but this is Winlink Packet, which is a basic form of communication. Here we go. Send pizza now.
She's also asking, how did you get the blue and yellow monitor? I think that's the color checkbox inside of your sound modem settings.
Yeah, you can make it go black and white. I just like the color. Sometimes black and white is a little faster.
It's a little less memory intensive on some older computers. So Judy asked in the chat, is Telnet the same? So Telnet does the same action, but it does it over the internet. And part of the reason why we're doing the Packet Winlink is we're showing you an RF way to do it. If David was at home and he had no internet at all, and the internet was down, but he could reach another gateway that had internet, he'd send it over RF to get his message out. You know, when they say when all else fails, amateur radio.
And I did my reply via mesh network, which is still another way to do it.
I'm going to stop this simply because this must be somebody else's message, which is considerably longer, and I don't want to take up class time. So let me see if I can stop it. I can't. So we're just going to let it grind away. And Chris, I'm going to send it back to you.
Great. Sounds good. Let me pin myself back up here, and I will add the spotlight. Let's unpin David. Remove spotlight from you, and you stop sharing your screen. Okay, so inside, I've got my screen back up here. Inside of your sound modem, to show exactly where that color setting is, you go into settings and you bring up the which one is this? This is the go into settings. You bring up the devices setting. There's a checkbox right here for color waterfall. And that is by checking that, that's where the colors were coming from down here in the bottom. Okay, so one of the things that I did mention earlier was this whole sound card output device, input device. It's called USB codec. So let me show you how to change that around a little bit to make it a little more friendly on your own system. So no, this is a customization that you can do on your own computer. So the way you do it is you come down here to your Windows menu and you want to go to your settings. And then let's go here to sound control panel. We'll go to the sound settings. So we'll show you the kind of the easy way, one way to get into here. Go to sound and scroll down. If you've got your screen wider, it may show up over on the right-hand side. What you're looking for is the link to your sound control panel. You go into there. And here in your sound control panel, there's a list of all the different sound devices that you have on your system. And if I scroll down here towards the bottom, here you'll find one that's called, and this is in the playback tab, USB audio codec. This is the my SignaLink. And if I go over here to recording, I have my microphone ports. And if I look down at the very bottom of that one, you'll also see USB audio codec. That is my SignaLink. So let's start on the playback side. I'll go ahead and click on one time to select it, that USB audio codec. This is in the sound control panel playback tab. And if I click on properties, it brings up the properties. And right here at the top, it has the name of what that device is. Now, Windows will allow you to change that. So what I like to do is I change mine to say SignaLink. That way it's a lot easier to identify.
And you change the icon too, because it's going to show up as a different icon out of default.
Yeah, the default icon, I forget which one it was originally.
It's either a speaker or a microphone, depending on whether you're listening to looking at the input or the output.
Yeah, so and then I went in here and I changed the icon. I made it this little box because the SignaLink is kind of a little box. So I kind of used that. So I'll say okay, and then hit apply. And that's going to be my output. I'll hit okay. Closes that window. Now I'm going to go over here to the recording tab. I'll come down to the bottom where my USB audio codec is, select it, go into properties. And once again, I'm going to rename that as SignaLink. And I would change the icon. You can click on that and change it over to the default one, from the default one to there. I'll click apply and okay, and hit okay again inside of here. Close all of these wonderful, helpful windows. I'm going to come down and I'll go back into my SoundModem. And if the demo gods are with me, now when I go up to settings and I go to devices, magically my output and my input device are automatically renamed to be SignaLink. Now this really helps as you start setting up other tools, and you'll see that later on when we go into using VARA, because it will be very easy for you to identify which one your SignaLink is. So take note that you've made this change if you make it. Otherwise, know that you're looking for something called USB audio codec. Now, I did mention that KISS server port of 8100. Let me show you where that comes into play here. I'm going to hit cancel, and I've got my SoundModem running already. I've got my Winlink running. I'm just going to minimize SoundModem out of the way. I'm going to come back over here to Winlink. I'm going to close my telnet, and I'm going to hit the drop down here for open session, and I'm going to go over to Packet Winlink. And then I'm going to open that session. Inside of your Packet Winlink sessions, you're going to come up here to the settings option. You're going to click on settings, and this is where you need to make sure that you have everything set up for your particular radio. And one of the things, because you're using this Packet SoundModem, you're going to browse and you're going to find the SoundModem application on your computer. You want to make sure your TCP port is set to 127.0.0.1. That means my own local computer. That means home. That's your home address. It doesn't necessarily mean the IP address of your computer. That's how computer networks can refer to themselves, the local computer. But you want to make sure that the TCP port is set to 8100, because that is what SoundModem is listening for. I think on Winlink this might come up by default if I remember correctly, but I know on VARA it changes, the default port is slightly different, and so it's just something to go here and check. I've got mine set up for 1200 baud right now. Everything looks good otherwise. Again, we'll have a PDF file that'll be posted up on WaveTalkers that you can go in and click all the buttons to make sure everything is set correctly. There we are. If you do come in here and you go to use your Packet Winlink, one of the things that you want to do is you want to select your channel that you're going to be transmitting on. And you do that by going up here to channel selection and click this. You may not see anything initially on here. And at the top, there's two options here. There's one to update table via internet. And I strongly suggest that you do that update via internet because otherwise you would need to know of a station to do it via radio, but it is possible. But you want to click the update via internet button. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at what you set as your local grid square inside of Winlink, and it's going to poll all of the Winlink servers, and it's going to figure out who are the likely connections that you have near you in order to make a connection. And it lists out what the call sign is, what frequency you need to set your radio to, and you need to do this manually. So this would be on the 220 band. Let's see, maybe I would want to try and connect to W60EU-10. So I would set my radio to 145.050. This is saying the baud rate, the grid square that they're located in, what the group is. If you remember back last week, when you were initially setting up, David suggested that you fill in 2 fields into the group, one of which is public in all caps and the other which is EmComm. And what that does is it polls and it finds servers that are talking for those groups. So this is a public one. I can see the distance is roughly about 12 miles from me, a bearing. So if I was using a Yagi or something, a directional antenna, I'd be able to point that over to them. Now, let's say I wanted to use this one here. All you got to do is double click it and it loads all of that data into here for you. When you first start using Winlink, you will probably find that the first one that you try to connect to may or may not work. So what you want to do is go through, set it up, click the start button and try and make a connection. It might work. If it works, great. What you probably want to do then is to tag this as a favorite. I am not seeing the favorite option in here though. Where is the direct connection? That's going to direct connect over to it. You want to make a list of those servers that you can connect to, so that when you go back to do this at a later time, if the internet's not available, you know who you're able to get to, who you need to set that to. But there you go. That is kind of a quick run through is how to get all of that stuff, all of that up and running. Next up, I believe we were going to have Dan, NR6V. I think we were going to have you go through setting a couple of forums, or Dave, did we have something else? Oh my God, what's going on, Dave?
Earthquake! Earthquake! Oh no, earthquake!
Oh, wow. So
That was scary.
That was scary. You okay?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
That was a simulated earthquake, right?
Yeah, so simulation, all simulated.
All
a little
simulated.
aftershock.
Got it.
Okay, I think we're fine.
Okay. I'm back online. There we go. Everything's back. So since we had a simulated earthquake, now would be a great time to send in a "Did you feel it?" report to the U.S. Geological Survey. And Dan is going to actually walk us through how to do that. So let me pin Dan up to screen. I will spotlight for everybody. There you go.
Are you seeing my Winlink screen?
We are
Yes.
seeing your
You look
Winlink.
good.
Outstanding. Okay. Now I'm doing this by a remote server, so it may be a little slow, but okay, to create any kind of a new message, you go to Message, New Message, and then if you're going to use a form, you click Select Template. Most of the forms, the standard forms, are in the standard forms folder. I can expand that. The Did You Feel It report is in USGS, and it's called dyfi.txt. Okay, and that opens up in a viewer so that you can fill this form in. Now, let me give you a little bit of history on this. USGS has been working with Aries Northeast on this project for quite a while. And many of us were beta testers on it. And the reality is it worked so well that it went live much earlier than expected. The reason behind this is kind of interesting. We all are familiar with earthquakes and the Richter scale. The Richter scale only tells the energy that was released by the quake. it does not tell what the damage is. And the damage is going to vary depending on distance and the makeup of the earth, types of buildings, and all of that. So the USGS is very interested in field reports of what people experienced, particularly in an area they call the donut hole. And that's a ring around the epicenter of the quake where they typically don't get reports from because people are either limited in their ability to communicate or they're so busy with the quake that they can't do the report. So they're very interested in that data, and lack of feeling it is as important as feeling it because they want to know exactly how it was experienced in lots of different areas. They do this because they distribute that information to people like the State Highways Department, who would need to know, where do we start checking overpasses for damage? Medical needs to know where we need to staff up our medical facilities. So that's the history behind this report. It's been online for years, but now because we're doing it by amateur radio, a couple of things have changed. First of all, they're able to get it in a wider range of conditions because it's not dependent on the internet. The other thing is they trust amateur radio operators to give them good reports. And because of that, these reports that are done through the Did You Feel It Winlink form automatically go into the database where the others are vetted first. So it's important that you are accurate with this, but it's even more important that you do a report. So if you look at this form, you'll see that it defaults to exercise, but you can click on it and say real event. You have an optional exercise ID here. This would be either for your exercise information, or if it's a real quake, there is a incident number that the USGS submits, and you can put that in there. Next, you put in, did you feel it? You have to do that. That's a required field. Date and time. You click on the date, you'll notice it comes up and defaults to today's date. You can change that if you like. Time, same thing. You can change it. Most likely the current time isn't going to be the time of the quake. So you're going to want to change that to the time that the quake actually occurred, as close as you can. Street address, you can, in my case, it's already there because I filled in several of these. Your latitude and longitude, again, mine are there from prior incidents. If you have a GPS dongle, about a $15 item connected to your computer, that will automatically fill in the GPS location for you. The rest of the form is just questions that are designed to try to suss out how the earthquake affected you. And, you know, where were you? I was inside a building. Were you asleep? No. Did others nearby feel it? You may not know, although if it's really strong, you're going to assume they did. So let's say most felt it. How would you describe the shaking? Mild. How did you react? Very little reaction. Knew David was faking it. How did you respond? I took no action, but you could do all kinds of things. There's even another field to put in. I got on the radio and sent my DYFI report. Was it difficult to stand or walk? No, we could walk okay. Swinging doors or free objects. Yes, some of them swayed slightly. Creaking noises. Yes, there were slight noises. Did objects fall off the shelf? No, nothing fell off the shelf. Do pictures on the walls knock or get askewed? Yes, some, but they didn't fall off. Did furniture, appliances slide, topple, or become displaced? No. Those of us that were around for the Northridge quake, that did. I saw one picture where the microwave oven went totally across the kitchen and made a dent in the wall. And what was scariest is it was almost at the same height that the countertop it was sitting on was on. talk about acceleration. Here's the heavy appliance like a refrigerator. No, that wasn't moved. Let's just go through here and fill these in real quick. Any damage to the building, hairline cracks in the walls. Now, your additional comments, we ask when you do that, that you note that it was done by amateur radio. So completed via amateur radio, operator NR6V, and I usually put in how I did it, var FM. Okay, now I'm going to go up here and purposely uncheck a required field. Let's see here. Did you feel it? Let's see, what can I take out? Let's take out the time. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Okay, so invalid time, it tells you that there, but if we go down, okay. If we go down and try to submit this form, it's gonna, well, it actually took it. I guess that isn't a required field. But if you don't fill in a required field, it will tell you that that's a required field and take you right back to it. This screen here is just an informational screen as to how they would classify it based on your information. You click continue. And now if we go back to my Winlink message screen, let's see here. You'll notice that all my data that it takes to complete that form is here in text form. Because again, remember when you do forms, you don't send the form. The form exists on all the Winlink computers. So all you're doing is sending the data to complete the form. So once you've done that, you notice it automatically enters the DYFI sender information. You just post it to the outbox, and once you go in and send your messages, it will take care of it, and that will send your input into the DYFI, and that's the DYFI form. Let's see, who do I go back to? Chris?
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, you got it.
Thank you. Let me add a spotlight. We'll pull Dan off of the spotlight. There we are. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back over to my PC here and jump down into the corner. We did get a question in. Judy asked if we could walk through how you get to the forms again. So getting to the forms is pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is just create a new message. You can use the new message button right here in the upper left. Just go ahead and click on that. It opens up a brand new message window. And then up here at the top, right along the top row, it says select template. Go ahead and click select template, and it opens up the template manager. All of these are going to be here inside of that standard template. Just go ahead and click that guy right there, and all of the submenus open up. The Did You Feel It is this USGS one right here. You go ahead and open that up, and there it is. That's the USGS Did You Feel It. It says .txt. But if you recall, when you open up any of these forms, what it does is it opens that local form, that file that's locally on your computer. It got installed as part of the Winlink install. It opens that form up in your web browser with a standard web form. So for an EmComm use, this is really good because you could open up a form, turn your laptop around, have one of the people that you're supporting to be able to fill in what the message is that they need to do. It's a standard HTML form. Then when they're finished filling it in, just turn the laptop back around. You can hit submit, and it puts that data then in the Winlink message, and you can go ahead and send it on their behalf. So you can do that. This is where all of those forms are. So for this week's homework, what we would like everyone to do is to fill out a Did You Feel It report. You just go into here, make sure when you fill it out, you do fill it out as an exercise. For an optional exercise ID, go ahead and put in WaveTalkers. It's all one word. Fill that in. And then when you go to submit your form, make sure you CC in the CC field all four of us, KK6DA, W0DHG, NR6V, and myself, W6AH. And let us know if you're sending this via RF or if you're still using Telnet. It's okay to still use Telnet if that's how you're able to send it. Ideally, we would like everybody to be able to try and get your radio connected. We know that you may need to be able to get a SignaLink and have it in there. We are going to discuss HF. So far, we're kind of building ourselves up a little bit. Somebody's asking in here that the closest station to them is 131 miles. So yeah, so when you go through HF, the setup is actually almost identical. If I come over here, instead of, let me close my new message here. We're going to go up here to open session. I'll click the drop down menu for that. I tend to use VARA HF for mine as opposed to packet Winlink. I'll go ahead and just give you a little preview as to what that looks like on HF. If you open up your session for that, when you go to the unable to talk to COM3, that's fine. When you go into here and you select your channel selection, this is very similar to what we just looked at in the VHF one. Channel selection.
Yeah. Your radio is not on connected.
My radio is not on connect, so it's gonna be griping at me because I don't have that radio plugged in. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and update via internet, and what it's doing right now, you'll notice that this looks quite a bit different. There's some other data in here, and what this is doing is it's calculating the path reliability estimate and the path quality. Those two pieces that are in there, it'll also tell you the frequency. So this is your band. So here's an 80 meter band, here's a 40 meter band connection, here's a 20 meter band connection, and it lists all of these out. So if you are doing HF, that is a place to be able to go into. Again, we're going to talk a lot more about HF in upcoming episodes, but that is just a quick preview as to what that's going to be. What other questions?
So there was a question. I'll jump in a little bit here. There was a question about when you looked at the waterfall in the sound modem, and again, we're going to do crawl, walk, run. We're going to start with the sound modem stuff. If you're not seeing traffic in that waterfall that Chris is showing you there, there are a number of different places where the volume of your Windows PC, your radio, the squelch on your radio, some of the configurations in the sound modem itself might not allow you to see anything in that waterfall or allow you to see traffic in the waterfall. And part of the reason why we use the APRS frequency to troubleshoot this is to allow you to see if there's traffic or not in that waterfall. If there's no traffic at all, it's completely black. And looking at Chris's screen, actually share back to your screen. Nobody needs to see my face. If you go back and look at Chris's waterfall, you'll see there's a little blue. Actually, I can share mine. Let me share mine real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and share yours as well.
Okay. So
I'd have to talk in order to get mine to show up.
Yeah, no worries. So you can see my screen here. You guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me open up my sound modem. And resize this a little bit. As you can see in the waterfall, there's a number of different things that I can do to control it. If I, for instance, turn off my SignaLink or mute the sound, you see it kind of drops off there. There's nothing there. It's because the radio is not talking to the SignaLink and it's not talking to the PC. But if I turn it back on, oh, there's a little traffic there. If I turn some of the transmit stuff up, and let me actually flip on the colors real quick. And I don't really do that on this PC because it's not quite the fastest PC. You can see that you might have a lot of traffic. That's that really dark green. But as I kind of roll the transmission down, oh, now it's a little lighter and a little lighter. And we're using this mostly as a diagnostic tool to see how does the signal come through, what does it look like. And again, there's a number of places where you might need to go to adjust things. If you right click on the sound stuff here, as Chris showed you, and look at the sounds, there's a playback and recording. In each one of these SignaLink devices, you can go in there and set those levels accordingly. And if you don't see anything, you may need to turn this up. One of the things that I want to touch on here, you can see there's a number of sound devices in my PC. We didn't talk about this, but by default, you'll probably see the more than one default device. You don't want your SignaLink either in playback or recording to show up as a defaulted device, because that way any of the sounds that are playing on your PC will go out through your SignaLink. And the way to fix that is go in here and figure out really what is your default device. You want to listen to your speakers for the playback and select that default device button. It'll turn off the default device from your SignaLink, both in the playback and recording. There's going to be a document posted with the email that goes out by Oliver K6OLI, and he goes through great detail on all of the different items that you're going to want to step through to make sure that the sounds on your system are set up properly so that that you can see the levels in that waterfall at appropriate. So I think back to Chris or to David.
Dave, somebody asked about other than a response from the sender, this is Judy, other than a response from the sender, how can we know that the message is received? And David mentioned requesting an ACK. What is an ACK and how do you do that? Can you show us that?
You want me to go back to sharing? I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead and go back to sharing and show that because you're already set up for it.
Okay. Good deal. So I don't do this by default on most of my messages, but when you go in here to send a new message, and I'm going to send this to KK6DA and W6AH and NR6V, and I'm going to say, hello. If I want to have a response, I'm not even going to do that. If I want to have a response back, I can go up here and check this box to request a message receipt, or as we call it, an acknowledgement or an ACK. And if I click that box when I post this to my outbox and I start my session, and I'm going to do this just via Winlink and start it, it's going to go out just like any old regular message. And David, are you ready to share? You want to share and show what it looks like when you pull it in?
Yeah, send it over to me and we can do that.
All right, I stopped my share. Go ahead and pick it up, David.
And David, can you also talk about why you would or would not want to request acknowledgements during exercise?
Yeah, you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So there's David's message ready to be retrieved. And this is sort of by custom that you ask for a message received. The good is that, yeah, it has been received. And let's see, let me close this. The bad, send us requested acknowledgement. Would you like to acknowledge now? Okay. That acknowledgement's been put in my outbox. I open a session.
But you didn't even read my message.
And the acknowledgement is that fast. The bad thing about doing it this way, and you have to sort of talk about this among your group of emergency communicators, is that it clogs up the system with ACKs. You don't want to do that as practice for everything, but if it's a critical message, And you can put in the message as part of the message body, please acknowledge, please respond, et cetera, et cetera. But you don't want to do that as practice simply because that creates so much back and forth in the system that sometimes is not necessary. What did you write? Hello, no message body.
So that's another point. Part of the point was, as you saw, when David went to open my message, it asked him immediately, do you want to acknowledge this? But he didn't really have an opportunity to read it. And the reason in the Los Angeles area we don't like to use the automatic acknowledge is it doesn't really mean anything at all. It doesn't mean that David actually spent the time to look at or read my message or acknowledge any of the information in there. It just basically said, hey, yeah, it made it to his system and he did download it. And he acknowledged that he started to open it, but not that he actually read it or did anything with it.
Also, if there was a problem delivering the message, Winlink would advise the sender that it was unable to complete. So you don't, that would tell you that it didn't get through. Otherwise, it got through, but you don't know whether they downloaded it from the internet or from the message server or actually read it. So if you requires an acknowledgement of the content, then you are better off asking in the body of your message for them to acknowledge.
All right. So let's see, what other questions? Thanks so much for the specific recommendations. Mac using operator, do we have any wish list recommendations for an idea? Laptop, a Windows laptop, radio for EmComm purposes. What kind of suggestions do folks have? I guess I could bring myself back to screen as well. By the way, I've had APRS running for a while. You can see all the stations that that my station is hearing at this time. So the question is, what suggestions, if any, do we have for a computer and for a radio? I'm going to actually kick this over to David, KK6DA, for what are you using, what's your testing that you've been finding out?
Well, I think you have to define what your purpose is going to be. If you're going to be in the field only, there's going to be a different set of requirements. You've got to worry about power, et cetera, et cetera. At home, I use a MacBook Pro using parallels and 2 or 3 radios that I can direct where I need them. In the field, however, the MacBook Pro is a power hog. In fact, we did an exercise a few months ago. I did take it in the field. I gave it its own 35 amp hour battery. And in a 4-hour exercise, it used 60% of the battery, a 35 amp hour battery. That's not necessarily something you want to take in the field. The MacBook Pro runs at idles at about 4 amps. When it's really doing computing, it's 6 amps. So here's another suggestion. This is the Microsoft Surface Go 2. And it's a very small tablet type, can you see it okay? Tablet type computer that is a Windows 10 computer. This thing draws nothing. It absolutely draws nothing. With a 35 amp hour battery, you can run this for days. And it does all of the functionality that any other Windows-based program. So I really, really like this. And of course, it has its radio that it likes. And so my latest acquisition for a field radio is the EmComm 705. That is an ideal combination, in my opinion, for field work. The 705 is 10 watts. In a recent exercise that did the entire San Gabriel Valley, and worked out very well. My 2 cents. I think you have to think about where you're going to use it primarily. If it's going to be primarily a home unit, that's going to be different than what you would use in the field on battery power and solar.
Yeah, I totally agree with David. It's really all about the mission, but the reality is if you're going to kind of follow the path that we're taking you down and you're going to use the SignaLink to interface your radio to your computer, then it's the radio that you have that's working that you can get the proper interface for to get to the gateway that you can reach. You don't need big and fancy. I have a gateway that's running in my garage. I've been running for almost 6 months now, nonstop, 24/7. It's running on a 10-year-old laptop with almost a 20-year-old radio. And it's there every day running really well. So it's really, it's really about the radio you have or the radio you're willing to commit to this. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to send out in the email, the follow-up email for this week, we're going to send you a link to a survey, and the survey is going to ask which radio do you have that you want help with getting connected, and we will help you. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here. I know there's folks out there that'll say you can totally do this on a Baofeng or an HT. The reality is your performance at 4 or 5 watts is going to be limited unless you're close to a gateway that you know is up and running and working well. And I mean, when I say close, I mean 3, 4, or 5 miles at best, or maybe 10 miles line of sight without any obstructions. You're going to want to do this on a mobile radio, 40, 50 watts or higher, to get the best performance. Let us know which of those radios you might have, and we'll help you connect it. Now, if you're portable and you want to backpack or walk around or take this on a camping trip, sure, you could totally do this with an HT. I have a working configuration with an HT. It actually works with the same wiring that my Yaesu radios all work with, and I do take that in the field, and it does work. So don't get discouraged if you don't have the latest computer or the latest radio. It's really all about the one that you could connect to, and we'll take it from there.
So, Dave, if you had a choice between a mobile 50-watt radio or an HT at 5 watts, and you only could have one, which would you choose?
Well, again, the point that we both brought up, it depends on the mission. If I was backpacking through the Sierras with my scouts, it would be that handheld. But for my home or for my portable Go Box, it would be that mobile radio, because I know where I am in the Los Angeles area. I can reach Dan's gateway, which is, I think it's 12 miles away, and over mountains. I can reach up into Simi Valley. I can reach up into Ventura County, because I can put out 50 watts. But again, it's all about the mission.
Yep. Chris.
Yes. I was just, anybody who's inside of the Zoom, make sure you open up the chat, look at the message that I just posted inside of the chat for folks that are in here. To make sure you can get the updated emails. Most all the information we're going to be posting up to WaveTalkerscom on the Winlink page. With that, is there anything that we've missed for today's session, Dave, or Dan?
I don't think so, but do just show everyone once again a paid advertisement for where you find it on WaveTalkers, because there is going to be a wealth of information there eventually that you can go back to and look at again and again. We've given you a ton of information today, and we know that you want to take it in at your own pace, but Chris is just a master at putting this all together on his website, WaveTalkers.com.
Yeah, so right here, you go into WaveTalkers.com, go up to the resources section up here at the top. If you're looking to upgrade, by the way, we've got the radio exams for both for technician, general, and extra, practice exams, all the questions, quick reviews, all that fun stuff. All of that is all free. You can also get to all of those things down here if you'd like to be able to get to them, get to take as many practice tests as you would like. That's all on there. But to get to the resources for this, you go into the resources link here at the top. And then it's right here under resources, digital operation, Winlink. That's the first of these that we've gotten up here, and they're all there. Class 2 will be posted right here. If you click on Class 1, if you missed last week, you can come in here and you can watch last week's class, all 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 16 seconds of it that we live streamed. If you're curious about how to install stuff, you can just go ahead and click on Install. That's in there. There's also all of these just toggle all of the different sections open, and more of these bars will be showing up, as well as additional information is all going up on a regular basis here on WaveTalkers. So thank you for that. With that, if there's any other questions, I think what we're going to do is we're going to end the live stream that's going out. And if anyone wants to kind of hang around from inside of the Zoom session, the folks that are in the Zoom, by the way, are the folks that signed up. We took registrations prior to the class starting, and we did have a lot of people sign up, so we filled up what we could handle inside of the Zoom session, and we're going to do a little Q&A with them inside for a while, but we're going to stop the live streams at this point, and we are going, just a reminder, next week we are taking a break for Thanksgiving. We will not be on live on that Sunday, but we will be live 2 p.m. Pacific time the following Sunday.
December 5th.
December 5th. We will be live again, 2 p.m. There. So with that, I will say thanks to everyone who joined us on the live streams, and I'm going to start going ahead and shutting those off. So thanks everybody who was watching us on LinkedIn. If you do follow me, Chris Mattia, on LinkedIn, you're able to watch the live streams there. So those are there. We're going to shut down YouTube on the